In the shiny marble lobby, a black woman greeted a deaf visitor using sign language, not knowing the CEO was watching. At the front desk, the receptionist grew annoyed and said, "I'm sorry, sir, I don't understand you," in the impatient way that privileged people often use. The man in the nice suit tried again, moving his hands in the air, but no one there understood. His shoulders sank with the familiar feeling of being left out. From across the lobby, Jasmine Williams, 24, carried a tray of expensive coffees for executives who barely noticed her. After 3 months as an intern at Reynolds Corporation, she already knew the truth about the place. Fake smiles, shallow politeness, and no patience for anything that slowed the corporate machine. But when she saw the man being ignored, something inside her refused to let it continue. Before she could think about the risk, she walked to the counter, put down the tray, and raised her hands. She signed smoothly like someone who had practiced for years. "Hello, sir, can I help you?" The visitor's face lit up with relief. "Thank you. I thought no one here would understand me," he signed back. The whole lobby went silent. People stopped talking and walking, watching as a black intern spoke in sign language with a man the receptionist had treated as a problem. What Jasmine didn't know was that Lawrence Reynolds, the CEO, had just stepped out of the elevator. His sharp gray eyes, famous for intimidating executives, now looked at her with a different focus, as if he had found something rare without realizing he was searching for it. But this act of kindness also caught the attention of someone else. Across the lobby, Victoria Sterling, head of marketing, glared with anger. She felt threatened by Jasmine's skill and planned how to twist this moment into a lesson about knowing your place. Victoria did not know that. Every cruel word she was about to speak would be remembered by someone with the power to change the story's ending. If you want to see how one small act of kindness can expose people's true character and begin a chain of events no one expected, keep watching. What happened in the next few minutes would change the lives of everyone there. Well, well, what a touching scene. Victoria's sharp voice rang out across the marble lobby so everyone could hear. And now the intern is acting as a professional interpreter. How cute. Jasmine froze as blood rushed cold through her body. Everyone turned to look at her, even the executives who had never noticed her before. Victoria walked toward her with slow, hard steps, her heels clicking like a countdown to humiliation. "Sorry to interrupt this little show," Victoria said with heavy sarcasm, "but we have rules here. Interns do not interpret for clients. That is the job of certified professionals." The deaf man looked between them, clearly feeling the tension even without hearing the cruel words. Jasmine quickly signed, "I'm sorry, sir. It seems I went too far." "Exactly," Victoria said with a cold smile. "Jasmine, isn't it? Only 3 months here and already acting like you're indispensable. How ambitious!" She spat the word ambitious like an insult. Lawrence Reynolds, the CEO, stood silently by the elevators, watching every detail, the voices, gestures, and characters being revealed under pressure. "Ms. Sterling," Jasmine said, trying to stay calm, "I was only helping." "He needed assistance." Victoria cut her off sharply. What he needed was a qualified professional, not an intern trying to show off. "Do you think a few hand signs will impress anyone here?" The receptionist smirked, pleased to see someone else embarrassed for failing where she had. Other employees gathered, eager to watch the drama. Jasmine took a deep breath. Something in her eyes changed. For a moment, Victoria might have seen that Jasmine was not being broken by the humiliation. She was growing stronger because of it. "I understand your concern," Jasmine said, her voice calm and steady. "It was never my intention to cause trouble." "Her intention?" Victoria laughed loudly. "Listen, dear, you're just a 3-month intern. Your intentions don't matter. Your job is to bring coffee, make copies, and stay invisible until you earn the right to speak." The deaf man gently touched Jasmine's arm and signed, "You don't need to say sorry for being kind. Thank you for your help." When Jasmine translated his words, some people in the lobby looked uncomfortable at Victoria's unnecessary cruelty. But Victoria didn't notice. She was too busy enjoying her power. "How dramatic," Victoria said, rolling her eyes. "Jasmine, you have work to do. Go back to your real tasks and leave professional matters to the experts." But Jasmine surprised everyone. Instead of looking ashamed or walking away, she turned to the deaf man and signed smoothly, "Sir, it was an honor to help you. I hope you find what you are looking for at this company." Her signs were graceful and fluent, not the clumsy movements of someone who learned only a few words. Even Victoria stopped for a moment. The man smiled and responded quickly in sign language. Jasmine laughed warmly and explained to the others, "He said he rarely meets someone who signs so naturally. He also has a meeting with the CEO about an accessibility project." The lobby went silent. Victoria blinked, realizing this was not just any visitor but someone important enough to meet directly with Lawrence Reynolds. "Well," Victoria said, trying to regain control, "I'm sure Mr. Reynolds will provide a proper interpreter for the meeting." "Actually," a deep voice cut through the silence, "I believe I have already found the perfect interpreter." Everyone turned to see CEO Lawrence Reynolds walking toward them, his presence commanding the room. Victoria went pale. How much had he heard? "Mr. Reynolds," Victoria stammered, "I was only explaining company protocols for publicly humiliating an employee who showed real skill and kindness." Lawrence interrupted. His calm voice carried so much authority that Victoria stepped back. Jasmine stayed still, but her eyes met the CEO's for a brief moment. When Lawrence looked at Jasmine, he saw something that reminded him of his own daughter. The same quiet strength, the same refusal to be broken by small-minded people who thought they had power. Without looking away from Victoria, Lawrence said, "Jasmine, join me and Mr. Martinez for the meeting. You are exactly the person we need for this project." As the three of them walked toward the elevators, Lawrence added in a calm but firm voice that everyone in the lobby could hear, "Victoria, see me in my office in an hour. We need to talk about leadership and protocols." Jasmine stepped into the elevator, still trying to process what had just happened. But deep inside, she wasn't surprised. Victoria had underestimated her. Jasmine knew that when you grow up being judged for your skin color, your gender, or your background, you develop a sharp intuition. You learn to see who really has power and who only pretends. And you learn to wait for the right moment to act. Victoria didn't know that Jasmine hadn't learned sign language by chance. She didn't know that Jasmine's calmness under pressure came from real experience. And she certainly didn't know that Jasmine had spent years caring for her deaf younger brother, facing prejudice and discrimination almost every day. As the elevator doors closed, Jasmine allowed herself a small but powerful smile. Victoria had made the classic mistake of insecure people, attacking someone without first knowing who they really were. And this time, it was going to cost her dearly. The meeting in Lawrence Reynolds' office lasted 2 hours and completely changed Jasmine's view of the company. Mr. Martinez was not just any visitor. He was Diego Martinez, the founder of the largest corporate accessibility organization in the country, and he was evaluating Reynolds Corporation for a multi-million-dollar partnership. "Your interpreting was excellent," Diego signed to Jasmine while Lawrence watched closely. "But more importantly, you understood not only my words but also my meaning. That is rare." Jasmine translated his signs faithfully, but inside she was processing a shocking truth. Lawrence could sign a little, not perfectly, but enough to follow basic conversations. He had heard everything that happened in the lobby, including Victoria's insults. "Mr. Martinez is right," Lawrence said, his eyes meeting Jasmine's. "Your brother must be very proud to have a sister who signs like that." Jasmine stopped interpreting for a moment, surprised. "How did you know about Danny?" she signed. "I did a quick search," Lawrence said with a small smile. "Danny Williams is 17, captain of the deaf school's basketball team. He has a full scholarship for graphic design. His parents both work 2 jobs. And you? You work part-time in a restaurant besides your internship to help pay the bills." Everything Jasmine had hidden for months was now known to the company's most powerful man. But she did not feel embarrassed. Instead, she saw something different in Lawrence's eyes. Real respect. "Diego, I need to tell you something," Lawrence began. He added, "My daughter was deaf. Sarah died 3 years ago in an accident. Before she died, she taught me the basics of sign language." His voice grew soft for a moment. "She always said that people who truly understand communication don't only translate words, They translate souls. The office was quiet except for Jasmine quietly interpreting Lawrence's words to Diego, who nodded with deep understanding. That is why this project matters to me, Lawrence continued. It isn't just about rules or company image. It is about making a place where people like Sarah and Danny never feel invisible. Diego turned to Jasmine and made a sign that made her blush a little. He asked if she would lead the company's accessibility program. Not as an intern and as a senior consultant. A senior consultant? Jasmine whispered, hardly believing it. Lawrence added, with a proper salary, your own office, and the freedom to hire a team. What do you say? While Jasmine tried to take it all in, Victoria Sterling sat 3 floors below, furious and typing emails to every important person she knew. Her plan was simple: ruin Jasmine's reputation before Jasmine could take any real power. She began drafting a message to the executive board with shaking fingers. Subject: concerns about improper favoritism of unqualified personnel. Victoria had decided that if public humiliation didn't stop Jasmine, she would use company politics to destroy her. What Victoria did not know was that Lawrence had already expected this reaction. Jasmine, Lawrence said as she was still absorbing the offer, I need to warn you about something. Lawrence's smile grew wider, the kind of smile that had built a business empire. He could see Jasmine's sharp mind at work, and he liked it. Diego, he said, I believe we found the right person to transform how this company communicates. While the hiring papers were being prepared, none of them realized that Victoria was moving fast with her own plan. At that very moment, she was sending a message to the city's top business newspaper, offering them an exclusive story about racial favoritism at Reynolds Corporation. What she didn't know was that her attack would soon backfire, in the most complete and public way the corporate world had seen in years. Within 24 hours, she would make the biggest mistake of all, underestimating Jasmine Williams and her quiet, careful strength. The next morning, Victoria called an urgent executive board meeting. She was confident she had weakened Jasmine's credibility. With a proud, poisonous smile, she began, Gentlemen, I called you here to discuss a serious case of favoritism that threatens our reputation. Lawrence sat at the head of the table, silent, calm, and patient, like a predator waiting for the right moment. Jasmine sat nearby as the newly hired senior consultant, a title that made Victoria clench her jaw in anger. This person, Victoria said, pointing at Jasmine without looking at her, was promoted from intern to senior consultant in less than 24 hours. No qualifications, no experience, just favoritism. Based on what? Based on what, Victoria? Lawrence interrupted sharply, his voice sliced through the air. Victoria froze for a moment, realizing too late she had walked into a trap. Well, obvious favoritism. We all know that some hires are made because of quotas, not talent. The boardroom went silent. Some members exchanged uneasy looks. Interesting, Jasmine said calmly, placing a small recorder on the table. Victoria, would you mind if we replay some of your comments about quotas and merit? Victoria's face turned pale. That's illegal. You can't. Actually, Lawrence said with a cold smile, recordings made in shared company spaces are completely legal, especially when they show repeated discrimination. Victoria's voice played loudly from the speakers. These diversity interns are all the same, hired to fill quotas. They know nothing, yet they think they deserve promotions. The board members' faces grew harder with each word. Victoria rushed to turn off the recorder, but Jasmine calmly stopped her hand. There's more, Jasmine said, her voice cold but steady. Victoria, do you remember this talk with Sarah from HR about people like me? Another recording played. People like her need to stay in their place. No matter how nice she acts, an intern is still an intern, especially those who come from, there. Victoria jumped to her feet, her voice high. That's out of context. Out of context? Jasmine repeated calmly. You're right. Let's play the full context. The screen lit up, showing a spreadsheet. 47 hours of recordings collected over 2 months. Racist comments. Insults about people not knowing their place. And worst of all, a recording of Victoria laughing about The little black cleaning lady getting promoted to serving coffee. I never, Victoria stammered, but her own voice on the recording proved otherwise. Lawrence stood, his presence heavy with authority. In 20 years of running this company, I have never seen such clear proof of hate and discrimination. Lawrence, you can't believe her. It's a setup, Victoria cried. A setup? Lawrence asked. At that moment, Diego Martinez entered with 2 reporters and a camera. Sorry to interrupt, he said, but when I heard there was a meeting on discrimination at Reynolds Corporation, I thought it should be documented for our National Accessibility Project. Victoria froze. She realized she had walked into the perfect trap. Not only was her career finished, it was being exposed live to the country's biggest inclusion project. Victoria Sterling, Lawrence said slowly, each word sharp as a blade. You are fired for cause. Security will escort you to clear your desk. And one more thing. His eyes locked on hers. I suggest you hire a lawyer. Jasmine has enough evidence for a lawsuit that would destroy any chance of you ever working in this field again. As guards escorted Victoria out, her protests echoed down the hall. Jasmine stayed seated, calm and composed. There was no smugness on her face, only the quiet strength of someone who had delivered justice with precision. Diego clapped slowly. Impressive. You collected proof of discrimination, exposed the company's toxic behavior, and turned her own cruelty into her downfall. Lawrence nodded with respect. Jasmine, you just gave our entire industry a lesson on how to fight prejudice with strategy and intelligence. But more than that, people said, she proved that strategic kindness is stronger than blind cruelty. Reynolds Corporation became a national example. Jasmine's accessibility program was studied at Harvard. Her inclusion rules were copied by Fortune 500 companies, and the company won international awards for social responsibility. Victoria, meanwhile, moved to a small town where no one knew her past. She worked at a local accounting office for just enough pay to cover rent on a small apartment. It was a huge fall for a woman who once commanded whole departments. Sometimes she searched Jasmine's name online and saw more news of her success. Another award, another headline, another sign of the woman she had tried to destroy rising higher. What hurt Victoria the most was not only her own failure, but the late realization that Jasmine had always been exactly what she claimed to be: talented, brilliant, and morally strong. Victoria's attempt to humiliate her had only exposed her own weakness. Lawrence Reynolds, deeply changed by the experience, created the Sarah program in honor of his daughter. It gave full scholarships to young people from poor or marginalized communities who wanted to study communication and accessibility. Jasmine personally reviewed every application. You know what I've learned? Lawrence told Jasmine in private one day. My daughter did not die in vain if her story helped me see true talent when I finally found it. The company became a magnet for diverse talent, not because of quotas or outside pressure, but because Jasmine had proven that true inclusion leads to extraordinary results. Professionals from many backgrounds now competed to join a company that valued both merit and character. Danny, Jasmine's younger brother, graduated at the top of his graphic design class and was hired by Reynolds' marketing division. On his first day, he signed to Jasmine. Now we're officially co-workers. Jasmine's victory went far beyond personal revenge. It became a revolution. She had not only defeated a toxic person, she had built a new model for how companies can succeed when they truly embrace diversity. Victoria had tried to reduce her to a stereotype. In return, Jasmine became a transformative force who redefined an entire industry. The lesson was clear. When you try to destroy someone because of prejudice, you only reveal your own weakness. Even worse, you might open the door for that person to replace you with someone far more capable. Jasmine Williams proved that the best revenge is not fighting cruelty with more cruelty. The best revenge is using discrimination as fuel to achieve such great success that no one can ever reduce your worth again. If this story of change and justice touched your heart, subscribe to the channel for more stories that show one truth. Our origins do not decide our destiny. Only our determination can turn obstacles into extraordinary opportunities.